You feel loss. You feel pain. But I'm gonna tell you something, and don't think this is insensitive. Welcome to the club.
Many hope that the election of the country's first African-American president could heal the breach in race relations, that it would usher in what was called a post-racial society. That simply hasn't happened. Nick Bryant, BBC News, St. Paul.
Well, Eric Johnson is a member of the Texas House of Representatives. He represents Central Dallas, the District 100 in the House of Representatives there, and he's a Democratic member of the House. Welcome, Representative. Thanks for speaking to us on BBC News. Let me ask you, first of all, what your observation is on the terrible events that took place in Dallas overnight.
Well, obviously, we're all heartbroken here in Dallas. You know, it's just an unspeakable tragedy. It's unprecedented. It's not like anything I've ever lived through, and anything any of us expected to happen yesterday. And so our hearts and prayers and thoughts all go out to the families of the folks who lost their lives serving us as law enforcement agents yesterday at the demonstration. We're torn up about it.
It's important to stress that the demonstration itself was an entirely peaceful event. These shootings took place as it was coming to an end. How would you characterise the relations between the police in Dallas and your city's African-American community?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is it's pretty typical of the American South. Dallas is a southwestern city, but truly it's southern in the ways that you think of when you think of race relations in the South. There's always been tension there. I don't think we've had an exceptionally contentious relationship, and certainly in the past year or so, there have been efforts made by organizations to try to work on police and community relations post-Ferguson. So yesterday's actions were not exactly anticipated, for sure. I'd say we've been making pretty good strides towards our community and the police working together. But we've had, over the years, demonstrations, and there have been times of the year when there have been police shootings and the community has gone out and demonstrated. But I'd say our relationship with the police in Dallas is very much like most southern cities in the United States. It's tense. It can be tense.
Chief Brown said at a prayer vigil this morning that it looked like this was, he put it, a well thought out, well planned attack. It's still not clear whether the suspect, who's believed to be Micah Johnson, was acting alone or whether there were other shooters. Have you heard any more this morning to give any more clarity about what may have been the situation?
I am not privy to any additional information at this point. I know the governor is on his way to Dallas, and we are supposed to be meeting and then having a press conference later to talk about the incident. But from what I understand, very much like in some of these recent terror events around the world, this is a lone wolf, individual, depraved individual acting alone from what we know. Certainly, I would not expect to find that there was any coordination whatsoever between the people who committed these horrible crimes and the people who organized this event. Absolutely, there would be no connection I would anticipate that would be found there. And I don't think anyone I know no one saw this coming. I mean, our police were taking photographs with demonstrators. It was completely peaceful. It was basically over. And then the most horrific attack on the police I've ever seen took place. So we're all just sort of stunned.
We had obviously the two fatal shootings earlier this week of Philandro Castile in St. Paul, Minnesota, and then again the other shooting of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge. And it was clear that the suspect at least claimed it had made him angry and why he wanted to carry out the shootings. But one of your colleagues has said today, a Republican Representative Roger Williams, has released a statement today saying that the spread of misinformation and constant instigation by prominent leaders, including President Obama, have contributed to the modern-day hostility we're witnessing between the police and those they serve. I wonder what you make of those remarks.
Absolutely untrue and just an irresponsible statement to make. It saddens me that we can't have a conversation in this country about race and about the relationship between the police and the community, which has race right at its center, without people running to their respective corners and lobbying unproductive remarks like that. The reality is race is a factor in these interactions between the police and the community. It just is. And there's a disparate impact on certain communities of when we talk about police shootings. I passed a bill last session in our legislature that makes it a requirement that every time a police officer shoots anyone, whether they die or not, or whether or not, or any time a police officer is shot, whether they die or not, that information, which we were never tracking before, that information is not tracked anywhere at the state level or at the federal level in the United States, if you can believe that. That information has to be tracked now in the state of Texas so we can look at the data and see if there are any patterns here according to race. And just already in 2016, we can see part of the way through the year that African Americans are very overrepresented in the percentage of people who are shot in interactions with the police. So there is a racial aspect to this, and pointing that out and wanting to get to the source of the problem and talk about these issues does not, in my opinion, make one, an anti-police person. That doesn't make, you're not anti-police by being anti-police brutality. There is a huge difference. And there are plenty of good police officers and law enforcement agents who I'm friends with and who I support legislatively and try to help, who I think would attest to that fact.
Eric Johnson, member of the Texas House of Representatives, thanks very much for being with us on BBC News.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings has called a prayer vigil at Thanksgiving Square in downtown Dallas. That's the event that Police Chief Brown is at as well. Texas State Senator Royce West made a call for unity at the event.
I want you to look around. Just look around. Look around this setting on this day in our city of Dallas. What brings us here is what's brought us here before.